Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the next event, which is screen 16, which we have labeled A2ST, could you go about 10 seconds before that and show that?
Okay, so screen 16 is here. You'll notice it says 11:50. I will try to get approximately 10 seconds earlier.
Guys, it was a joke, chat. It was a joke. Now, next thing you're going to do is tell me you're all photographers in Kenosha.
You want me to play at this point?
Please. Stop. Did you do any slowing down of this observation?
Yes, I did.
Could you please show me that? What you just played for the jury was real time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's a slow motion version?
Yes, much like what you saw Senior Examiner Armstrong this year, which is about to be played.
No. Stop that. Slow motion of screen 16.
Got to be careful what's in the metadata of those labels.
Is this the one you're referring to, sir?
File.
Yes.
What are we watching?
I don't know. It was supposed to be slow mo over video, and then we saw a different video. I think it might be.
This is
up
the
the
other. Seems to be the other angle when he gets hit over the head with the brick.
Yes.
Did he hear me?
Can you go back, please? We lost are both of them?
This is the risk of an expert. Like, this is confusing and boring. They need to tie this in together and really, like, hammer home a narrative about the video. That's what they should be trying to do with the expert.
That is, because otherwise it's just data that you're throwing at the jury and they don't know where their brains
They're
don't
not
know where to place
watching.
it, just like all of us.
Yeah,
And
they're
the
looking at their
hammer.
phones.
They need a hammer on that 3/4 of a second thing because that matters. But
Yeah.
And that
that's about
relabeling didn't make it any easier, right? That relabeling just made this even more dreadful.
And this expert probably cost many tens of thousands of dollars at just going down the
Is
drain.
everybody watching
This
it
is
on
just
this one?
putting it
Yeah,
in
There it goes.
But I'm blaming Richards for his bad questioning of the expert.
I mean, experts are always boring. It's up to the lawyer to make them not boring.
Blaming Richards is always a viable option.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge to make these 3 minutes seem boring, but yet he's doing a magnificent
He
job.
did the same thing in opening, making the video boring. I didn't know it was possible.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a challenge to make stuff like this when you're getting into technical stuff interesting, but you got to have your tech set up properly too. Because
No, Richards is sighing in irritation. Well, during this downtime, the chat had asked who does closing arguments for Kyle. Is it Richards or is it Sharfizi?
If there's
I'll
any
bet
justice in this
Sharfizi.
world,
Sharfizi. sorry.
Sharfizi.
It should be.
I think Richards is
Sharfizi.
gonna do it.
I think Richards going to. I think Richards going to steal the spotlight. I think it
Yep.
should be Sharfizi.
Yep.
The oh god, maybe they'll do something better. Again, what I would ask them, I would have asked him to put together, like, okay, you have these videos where you have the timeline of events. Can you put them together in one congruent thing? And
Just
we
run
know that the angles are going to switch when a new video comes up, but just run it. 3 minutes.
Look at
Rob
how
Barnes
giddy Big
said
Boy
about
is there.
Richards. This
Look
is
at how
exactly
giddy
the
he is.
critique. This is exactly the critique that Robert Burns made of Richards. He said he's a fact lawyer and he sucks at narrative, and this is trying to tell a narrative right here about these 3 minutes, and we're seeing it given fact by fact, broken down, as opposed to laying it out in a story that's somewhat engaging.
There. Thank you, Doctor.
It's
Is it on
making
this
it
one
painful.
also? Okay. Now, please play this screen in slow motion, Doctor.
Okay, so this looks like it took a long time, and he's going to illustrate that this is
Stop.
7 seconds.
The next screen is 17, which we have labeled KRLB. Can you bring that up, sir?
KRLB.
All trial, all the time.
Real lawyer business.
And go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Where's this one starting?
Stop.
Good,
This
stop.
video, have you slowed it down for analysis? Could you please bring that up on the screen?
Again, this is torturous. Play the whole
And what
thing.
speed will you be playing this at?
This one is done at a quarter speed.
Okay. And you have
That's
taken
45%.
the sound out of it?
The soundtrack is not present. That's correct. Sound, since it is, as I explained earlier, uncompressed, the sound would not sync up when you slow it down.
Okay. And so then you would hear sound of gunshots, but not when they're occurring. Is that a fair statement?
Any of the sound that you hear would not be when it's occurring.
Okay. Please show the quarter speed video.
The one thing they have going for them is that this is the first thing that the jurors are seeing in the day, so they're not already mentally worn out. But this might be wearing them out.
I don't know.
Where
This is
I'm
kind of
worn out.
you look at this and you wonder how this can't be self-defense. I mean, what is going to happen but for that right there?
But unless these jurors are getting a morning IV drip of coffee, this is going to be a rough morning.
Nothing
Yeah.
to do with
This
the
is the
skateboard.
defense resting, but it's
You know
like
what-
making the jury rest.
You know what's interesting about that? It looked to me like Kyle fired before the foot made contact with his face, which doesn't matter.
Pulling
It-
at the gun,
Yes.
two
chat-
shots doesn't hit anybody.
Yeah, well,
it
he-
doesn't
you know-
matter that he was engaged in the attack, but I think it's slightly inconsistent because it always seemed like the kick came first and the two shots came later from the testimony.
I always thought that Crouching Tiger was in the air before landing the kick when he was shot at. But
Boom.
Oh yeah. Okay, so now the question is going to be,
Stop,
how
please.
long did all of that just take to occur
Now,
in real time?
Using this video
Well, there's a
and
1
the
second
audio
mark on the
graph, were you
video.
able to figure the times of
Right here.
certain events in event number 2?
Yes, sir.
From the time, strike that. There is what's commonly referred to as jump kick man entering in the video. Do you know who we're talking about, Doctor?
I do.
And when you analyze this video, did jump kick man kick Kyle in the face first, or the first shot go off before the kick?
I'm an objection on this
Objection?
is beyond the scope of the court's order regarding this witness's opinion.
Now he's characterizing events and
It
not
seems to me the
timing.
jury could. You're asking him to make an identification that the jurors could make themselves?
I'm asking him, based upon his video analysis, what happened first? The kick to the face in the first gunshot in event number 2, or the gunshot in event number 2, and then the kick to the face?
It's qualifying what happened as a matter of fact. Sustained.
Overall,
Overruled.
Overruled.
Yes.
He's just
Based
trying to
upon
identify
your
the two
analysis,
events. He's not labeling it
video
overly
and
prejudicial.
sound
Everybody
analysis,
agrees in the
what
courtroom that this
occurred
happened.
first, the kick to the face by jump kick man to my client, or the first gunshot?
Based on my analysis, the kick to the face occurred prior to the gunshot.
And
I saw it
after
different.
that was Kyle's first shot in the second event, correct?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, after the kick, the first shot in the second event occurred. That is correct.
Okay, and that happens, I mean, thousandths of a second after. They're very close in time, correct?
They're absolutely very close in time.
Shot number 1, using that first shot at jump kick man as the 0 shot, how much time elapsed from the 0 shot to Kyle Rittenhouse second shot at jump kick man?
From the beginning time of shot 1 in the second event till the point of shot 4 was 5.468 seconds.
Are you looking at the exhibit?
I am. And maybe I misunderstand your
Yeah.
question.
I have the amount of time elapsing from
Whoa, objection.
0 shot to the second shot.
I
Oh,
think
he's
I know
not
what's
going where I
correct.
thought he was.
Kyle's second shot, I'm crossing references, and I apologize.
Who knows?
To make this as clear as possible, the first shot in the second event between that time and the fourth shot in the second event is 2.933 seconds.
Yeah, but they're mixing up two things there, I think.
It's so confusing and boring.
He wants to get the distance from the kick to the second shot in that
And
flurry.
how many of shots were fired in event number 2 in total?
For the shots from what's been attributed to Kyle Rittenhouse, 4.
And the timing between each shot. So Kyle Rittenhouse, and I'll keep it constant. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 1 is at the 0 time, correct?
If we use that as a 0 timer starting point, we will call that 0.
Okay. Kyle Rittenhouse shot number 2, which was directed at jump kick man. How long after shot 1?
0.602 seconds.
Shot number 3, which is the strike, excuse me, the shot to Anthony Huber. How long was that shot after shot number 2?
1.933.
And the last shot for Mr. Huber's shot to Gage Grosquist's shot was how much time?
Okay, and I'm going to back up on this because I want to make sure this is absolutely clear for the court. Again, 2.933. In one case, we're talking the gap or time between shots. What I just relayed was the time between shots. The total time of all shots was, again, my first answer, 5.468. So this is just clarification for the court.
So from kick to the face to
So the
fourth shot.
total of this event of shots fired is 5.468 seconds.
That is correct.
And that
Insanely
event
fast.
ends at
Yeah.
screen 27. You just roll this,
I have 26.
okay, which is shot number 4. KRS4.
This doesn't have to be this boring. This could be done in a way that's interesting and
Right.
engaging. He's just not doing it.
And this is not the expert's fault because he has to answer the questions in the way that Richards is
Go ahead.
asking.
No, this
You
is
wanna
this is
play
on
yours?
Richards.
Yeah, if you back up about
Yeah.
2 seconds.
And do you want to play it in this size or back to normal?
That size is fine in a factor of half report speed.
During the foundational parts where he was given a lot of leeway to sort of explain things, he did a really good job, I thought.
Yeah, his witness is clearly good at this.
Yeah.
That would be at normal speed.
He thinks it's relevant the distance between the time frame between each shot as opposed to just from point one to the fourth shot, the kick to the head to the bicep. That's the relevant time frame.
From approximately the same
Yeah, they
point.
need to just play the video straight
Slow
through.
down.
Yeah.
Right?
And then
much,
how long was
much
this?
shorter
How long
testimony
was that?
also. You don't need to drag this whole thing out, as you're all pointing out. How long a time was it between this first shot from jump kick guy and Gage Grosquist's arm?
See if
being
Kyle
taken
racks
away?
the gun. I haven't seen it. I've never seen him rack the
He's
gun.
not. He did not. He's also not pointing at him. You see the angle? He's not. It was never pointed at Gage.
He
It
never
was
racked
never
that gun.
I don't see it. I don't
Go
see
for
him
it,
charging
Mr.
that.
Rittenhouse gets up
His
for it.
hand
half
doesn't
hour
leave the
yesterday.
grip.
He got Kyle to admit that he was aiming his AR-15 at him, which was not true. It
At
was
his-
a lie.
at his
It was
feet.
it was a lie of deception of perception of the angle of the picture. But he was
You
not.
should have said I was aiming at his feet because another man just kicked me in the face.
But it wasn't aimed at his feet. That's my
It was a
point.
joke.
It was aimed at the,
It's
I know, but it's getting.
They
I'm
should,
so agitated that Kyle admitted to something that wasn't true.
from an optics perspective for the defense, they should not be
Based on
continuing
your
to play this
video
in slow motion.
analysis, after this time,
Agreed, Viva.
Mr.
Yeah.
Rittenhouse fired his
Everything was
weapon.
just
anyway.
bad. Poor presentation.
No.
And from here, Mr. Rittenhouse leaves and continues north down Sheridan Road until he gets to a police officer squad, correct?
Yes, sir.
And from that time in getting up until he arrives at the police squad car to surrender, how much time is that?
They're trying to show how fast this happens, and they're making it take an hour.
I completely agree. Like that's the thing that I
Doing
don't
quick
know if
math,
they understand
this
what
is
they're
stupid.
doing, but I feel like it's the opposite effect of what they're trying to go for.
Approximately 1 minute and 26
Just
and
play,
about 3/4 second.
play the
Yeah,
So
play
video.
it once.
126.75.
Just
Approximately. That's just doing quick
play
math.
the
Understood.
175 seconds.
Now, you were in court yesterday to hear the testimony and cross-examination of Kyle Rittenhouse, correct?
I was.
And you observed the demonstration that the state put on in showing frames 476 to 500 in the BG of the scene video, correct?
I did.
And 476 to 500 is how many frames per second?
Well, depending on the video that they were showing, my understanding, my recollection is correct, is they had told us that it was 30 frames per second.
Okay. And at 30 frames per second, that would have been less than a half second of actual action that are broken down into stills, correct?
Again, the numbers being 476, is that correct?
476 to 500.
Right, so that would be 24 frames at 30 frames per second. If it was 30 frames per second, it would be approximately 3/4 of a second.
How about you
And
just play the video so we can see how
Doctor,
fast that goes by?
When one looks at video as a depiction of an event, does that necessarily show what the actors in that video were observing?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This is beyond the scope of the court's order.
This is the video that.
The short answer is it's impossible for it to do that. Describing it to you the best way that I can. Imagine, well, you were just doing it. All of you were looking at a video screen, a depiction. It's a known focal length from you, yet you can see from maybe, if I go halfway between the jury, about 12 feet, and that stays constant. And then you look from that distance all the way out to 50 yards. Everything in that frame is at the same exact moment of clarity, but your eyes can't do that.
This is
The other
actually
thing
good
is you're looking
testimony.
at
Should have
two
opened like
actors.
this.
in this case.
I like this
maybe
expert.
5 or 10 actors that you were
Unfortunately,
looking at,
it's
depending on what each
sandwiched in
one
the
of
middle
you
of a lot of
chose to look at.
bunk.
So the video can't
Unfortunately,
tell
he's
you
being
what
questioned by
each one of you
Richards.
were looking at. And it can't tell you what either actor in there was looking at, attending to, nor perceiving. Putting that in its context, though, video has absolute benefit to an analyst to help us understand what was objectively occurring. And that's the way that we use it. And that's, in my argument, the way it should be used. But it also has potential limitations. And I think you actually heard Senior Examiner Armstrong speak to some of those limitations. Camera movement, movement of people, lighting. So for example, we can brighten it up a little bit or clarify it. You can't do that with your eyes. So the short answer is video has great value, but it is not the experience or the perception of the people involved in the event. It can't be.
What is the difference?
Should've
between
opened
video
with
is
that.
two-dimensional
Yes.
Yes, sir.
and reality is three-dimensional?
At a minimum.
Okay. And how
Not
does
sounding
that
funny,
not
though.
translate, if you can opine on
There
that?
are 4 dimensions,
Absolutely.
Runkle.
So for the members of the jury, if you were to just take and pick a point that's maybe about 6 feet in front of you, maybe on Madam Court Reporter's desk, and you were also to pick a point over here and look at it, I want you to have both of those points in perfect clarity at the same time. Now what I want you to do is I'm holding up my glasses, so I've already told you what it is, but I want everybody to sort of look at the same point you picked on Madam Court Reporter's desk, and then while you're completely focusing on that, tell me when my glasses drop. We can see that in the video. We have the luxury of hindsight. We have the luxury of going back and taking a single frame. Think about this, 30 frames per second. The blink of an eye is approximately a third of a second. In the blink of an eye, 3 frames have gone by. And we will sit here and examine a frame for moments, minutes, who knows how long an
Here you
examiner
go.
looks at it. That's not wrong. We should be doing that. That's due diligence. But we also have to remember what was the limitation of the actors involved. What were they looking at? What could they even have seen? What were they attending to? What was happening to them? This goes back to the area of sense making that you heard the council speak to. And then more importantly, when we get done with it, we bring it back up to normal speed and say that's the best it could get, regardless of all the slow motion we do to it, enhancing of video levels, clarification, light, all those types of things.
Lastly, Doctor,
Crystal clear.
the shots in event
Should have been
one
his opening question, and they should have
less than
redone
1
it
second,
as the
approximately
last question.
3/4 of a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
Approximately 3/4 of a second.
And the events, event number 2, the 4 shots in event number 2 took a total of 2.93 seconds, correct?
That's incorrect. They took a total of 5.468.
I apologize.
2.933 was the time between the third and the fourth shot.
So the total between the 2 events of shooting is less than 7 seconds.
It's less than 6 seconds.
Are you asking if you were to put both those 2 figures together?
Yes,
Yeah, it's about 6.5 seconds.
I have nothing further.
But play the damn video, though. Just play
Yeah,
it.
why would you not play the full 2?
And end it with the video, so
75
that's the last visual.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he made the
I-
point, but it could have been made with a more poignant grand
Doing it
finale.
with words is one thing, but when
Do
you
you
can
want
do it
this
with
off screen
visual,
now?
it's always better.
No, you can leave it up, that's fine. Thank
If only he had some video available to him that he could show them.
You. You indicated earlier